Hello guys, how are you doing? So I'm not gonna lie, I've been putting off filming this video all day and now I'm really chasing sunlight. Like I think the sun is already down over the mountain. I'm gonna have to do this in one take and I think the stakes are high. I really think I'm gonna have to do it in one take. So especially because we have a lot of books to go through, but before we get ahead of ourselves, I was gone for about 9 months and these are the books that I bought while I was gone. I don't normally buy big chunks of books at a time. Oh my gosh, I can't say that because I just barely bought a big chunk of books. But that was a slightly different condition. That was a little different situation. But even buying just like 1 or 2 books a month over 9 months adds up. So that's why we have a massive book haul today. And I have read some of these books. I'm going to try not to get into them if I have read them, but altogether I still think it might give you a little bit of an insight to where sort of my reading brain and experience was over the last several months. I was in the reading slump for a lot of it, so that's one of the reasons I bought as many books as I did, is because I sort of wanted to read and would go to the store and buy a book that I wanted to read in order to kind of keep myself reading. We don't need to get into all of that, but for now, I think I want to just jump right into what I bought, and I want to start with one that I have right on the bottom here. I am not completely positive that I didn't mention this book in another video because I think I bought it like last January or December. No, I bought this with Christmas money, like Christmas book money. Okay, so I haven't reviewed it before. Okay, The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. I did read this one and I did really, really like it. It did take me a couple of tries. It's definitely a sad girl book. It's definitely a girl having a crisis. She goes to New York sort of on her own and ends up having a crisis. But Sylvia Plath is a really beautiful author. She writes a lot of poetry, or she wrote a lot of poetry, and it's very sort of the soul for sure. And I really, really liked it, which caused me to go to the store looking for more of her poetry. And I think I went to a used bookstore, and I live in Utah, so no one was reading Sylvia Plath. Not to make a general assumption of everyone who lives in Utah, but no one was reading Sylvia Plath. There was no Sylvia Plath in the used bookstore. So I bought this, which was actually new and too expensive, but I felt too awkward telling the cashier that I didn't want it after she helped me find it for 15 minutes. Anyway, Sylvia Plath, Johnny Panic, and the Bible of Dreams. I think it's a collection of short stories as well as journal articles. Really looking forward to it, but I haven't read this one. Now, I know where I want to go next. Oh, Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion. I bought this one because I think it was around the time when Joan Didion died. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong, but I think it was also because of Sylvia Plath and The Bell Jar. I was really in sad girl vibe mood, and I decided to embrace that. Play It As It Lays takes place in the 70s in Hollywood, but also in Nevada. It's a woman, she is an actor. She is in Hollywood. She's also married to a director, producer. It's all very sad. It's all very depressing. It's all a little bit difficult to outrightly recommend because it's a very specific mood. It's sort of anti-hero mood. But it's really, really beautiful in the way it's written. Joan Didion is definitely an icon, just classic, really incredible writer. This was my first time really giving Joan Didion a chance, and I really, really liked it. And, as I'm speaking, I'm realizing I really should probably get some more books by her because I did really, really like it, and I want to read more of her. From here, should we go with another antihero? And another book that I have read and I loved, which was Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. This one also took me a couple tries to get into. This has been often compared to Fleabag, which is probably deserved. There's a woman who has a mental illness, of some kind. It definitely comes across as depression, but it's meant to be fictional mental illness. But it is about her coping with that, how it infringes on her sense of identity, how it shapes what she believes she can and can't do. It shapes her relationships with the people around her, how she feels like a burden to them, and how she hates herself for that, or she hates them for the fact that she feels that way. It is a love story in its own sense, but I definitely don't think you should go into it going that way. I would say this, I've described it to a friend this way: it's a love story in the way that the movie Marriage Story is a love story. Do you see what I'm saying? It's about love, and it's really heartwarming, but it's also gut-wrenching at the same time. It's also just so delightfully written. The language is so much fun. Let's see. Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger is a book that I bought with my Christmas money because on the day of Christmas I read oh my gosh, what's it called? The Catcher in the Rye. And I really, really loved it. It was my second time reading The Catcher in the Rye, and something just really clicked. And I really, really loved it, and I was craving more of J.D. Salinger's writing style. This is a very shiny white book, and so there's, we got some weird angles here, but it is a pairing of two short stories, one from the perspective of Franny and one from the perspective of Joey, and they are siblings. They are the youngest of a very big family. I think they're the youngest, and multiple siblings of theirs have died, and it, I think, is more subtly, not so explicitly on the surface, but more subtly about how they're sort of coping with those traumas in very different ways, and they're both like struggling in their own ways. That's sort of like a little bit lower level, a little more subtle. More generally, there are plots, and they do follow what I really liked of the sort of internal narrative style of The Catcher in the Rye, of this character who is just sort of rambling and frustrated with the world, and I kind of liked that. I now genuinely cannot remember how long ago I bought this and whether or not it belongs in this video, but Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, which I know is about like World War II, and I do think it's sort of an anti-war book, and that's something I'm really intrigued by, and I really don't have anything else more to say about that one, to be totally honest with you. Okay, I have a couple of books that I bought that I had already read, and I bought because I wanted to own them. The Enlightenment of the Greengage Tree. Gosh, I'm really stumbling. My heart's like up here in my throat because I'm like rushing the sun like it's not the end of the world, but it feels like it, apparently. Shikufe Azar. This is translated from Farsi and takes place during the Iranian Revolution, which is now, I don't know, like very relevant again. It's a not stream of consciousness, it's magical realism. It's one of the first books on magical realism that I ever read. I reviewed this very in depth, I think when I talked about it. I feel like I had a lot to say about it, so I'll link that video here. Really, really loved it, thus why I wanted to own it again. And another one that I read, and it's hard for me to say I loved it because I think it was almost just like hard to swallow. It felt like stuck in my throat. It was really hard for me to see that big shiny spot? Anyway, Milkman by Anna Burns. It takes place during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, about a girl who's sort of being stalked by the milkman, and but also a community that is very traumatized. The whole community, they're all like rumor and who you're seen with is a really big deal because they're in the middle of a war, and if you're seen with, people depending on which side of the Troubles they're affiliated with, there's a lot of, there's consequences that come with that. And even though she doesn't want any of his attention, the fact that this man is paying attention to her starts to cause problems for her. It's a Booker Prize winner, and it is written, if I remember right, fairly stream of consciousness. I feel like we were jumping around all the time, like back and forth chronologically, all over the place. It was one that I think the way it was written and like the use of language made it so difficult, and I was maybe like not in a space ready for all of that work. I also read it before my master's program in literature. I do feel like I might be able to get more out of it this time, which is one of the reasons I bought it, because I wanted to give that a try again. We're just like doing our best pushing the lighting up here. Okay, a couple more. I bought 2 Elena Ferrante books, which is crazy that I did that before reading one of them. I think I bought The Lying Life of Adults because I wanted to try a book by her before I invested in the series, which I didn't invest in the series, but I got just the one book. This is really blown out. Sorry. My Brilliant Friend. Honestly, I don't know what either of these are about, but Elena Ferrante seems like she is at least in terms of translated fiction, a standard name in the genre, a classic. I honestly don't know what either of them are about, but I do think that her literature has a lot to do with sort of the interpersonal relationships between women, and takes place in Italy. And I love both of those things, or I love the idea of both of those things. Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I've never read anything by her, but I was sad one day. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I just walked around reading the opening pages of a bunch of books, and this is one that just struck me by the opening page. I think it's about a woman who is a writer in Boston. Tell Them of Battles, Kings, and Elephants. I do know that I saw this on BookTube and I don't remember where, so if you happen to have recommended this book, I might have seen it from your video, and please say hi down below. I do know this is a translated fiction from Italian. Michelangelo at court or something is speaking to someone. A sultan has offered, along with an enormous payment, the promise of immortality, since Leonardo da Vinci's design was rejected. That's the line that popped out to me, and that feels... You know, I feel like I have good vibes from that one. I think it's going to be really good. The Idiot by Elif Batam. Since the sequel, Either Or, just barely came out, and I've been seeing it everywhere, I finally just bit the bullet and I bought this because I've been wanting to read it forever, and I keep on putting it off, so I thought maybe if I buy it, the act of, like, investing in the object will implore me to actually read it, because I do really, really, really want to. I have just heard that from everyone that this is a really, really good book. I do know that it takes place during a study abroad year, a girl studying abroad in Europe from Harvard. And I think that it is somewhat self-referential to other books within the campus novel. Is it campus novel or like a college book? So I wanted to read this one after The Secret History. Tell me if I'm just completely like misplacing this book and that is just not necessary or not relevant. If you've read either or both of those books, I would be interested to know that. Another that I kind of just splurged on, and I can't defend quite as much, as White Ivy by Susie Yang. Not that I can't defend it as much, but I did buy it kind of in the moment. I do know that Claire from Claire Reads Books really, really loved this book, and I sort of will read anything that she recommends. I do know it's a bit about like identity for a woman who's a children of immigrants, and I think it has to do with growing up in a specific community and feeling really identified by being an immigrant, and then later in life coming back to that community after feeling like she's sort of assimilated and shedded some of her immigrant identity, and re-interacting with people in that childhood community. That's what I think it's about. Bunny by Mona Awad. Awad? Yeah. This I know has been very popular. I did read it. It is absolutely incredibly weird, but I'm not going to complain. I did really like it. It is a campus novel. It's a woman in her master's degree, and she is sort of the odd one out in this group with a bunch of other girls that have sort of like Mean Girl vibes, but it is more social aggression, like a little more subtle than like normal Mean Girls. Mean Girls is definitely about social aggression, but the point is they incorporate her into their group and things start getting weird and they start doing weird things, and everything blurs the lines of reality, and you're just desperately waiting for some kind of an explanation for why everything is so weird. It is really fun. I can say that having read it, I did think that there were references I was missing, and since finishing it and going back, I've learned I do think there were some references I missed because I hadn't read like The Secret History as well, like that kind of thing. Anyway, I don't know, but not only The Secret History, but maybe even like The Idiot, like other like college books. Anyway, The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I bought this in part because I am becoming really, really confident that I like Booker Prize winners. So far, we have a really good track record. Oh no, we're so close to being done. Okay. I know this takes place in New Zealand, which really intrigues me because I lived in New Zealand for a little while, and I don't think I've ever read a book that was set in New Zealand. I also know that it's divided according to astrological signs, which is something that I will be honest with you, I am intrigued by, very skeptical of, and not well informed of, though I am an Aquarius, for those who care or are interested. I don't really know what that means. If you want to tell me, I'd love it. Anyway, it is a honker. She's a beast. She's huge. And so I can't really say when I'm gonna get to this book because I'm very nervous of it. but I'm so intrigued. So another one, Persuasion, the annotated Persuasion by Jane Austen, to be a little bit more specific, which I bought, wouldn't you know, in anticipation for the very exciting Netflix adaptation of Persuasion with Dakota Johnson, who I love. Dakota Johnson. I really, really, really like her as an actor. I just really like her vibe as a person, maybe more than an actor, but like as a person, I find her really, really intriguing. All of that is to say that once it came out and it was immediately getting torn apart, like just completely roasted, I never even watched it because my intention was to read this book before it came out. The movie, that is, not the book, been out for a little while. But the book, I think I only, for some reason it was delayed. I only got this like a week before the movie came out. And so I waited to watch the movie in order to finish the book, and I started it. But then once I realized that maybe I'm not going to want to watch the movie, and I never did, then I put it down. So I haven't actually read Persuasion. I think I've listened to it like a decade ago. All that is to say, I have been really intrigued by this series of annotated books. I think all except for Mansfield Park has been published, but I haven't actually read any of them. But I personally am the type of reader who really loves annotations. I love to do annotations. I also definitely see myself as the type of person who would love all of the backstory as additional context for appreciating such a great work of literature. And yeah, I'm going to work on buying more of that series, but I should probably read one of them, see how much I like them. Last two books, we're almost there, and the sun, whew, we're cutting it close. Cultish by Anna Montel, The Language of Fanaticism. This I did read, and I really, really liked. It is a nonfiction book. In fact, I think the only one here, except for some of Sylvia Plath, I suppose. But nonfiction book about a linguistic look at the use of language in cults. Specifically, not specific, I can't really get into the book because there's sort of a lot to say, but also maybe one of my complaints is that it was not as deep as I expected, but I really loved the way it talked about language as the medium, the mental medium that we create frameworks inside of our mind, and so as individuals or groups try to manipulate our use of language, both by claiming it and like putting different meanings on existing words or introducing new words into our vocabulary, they're really able to shape the way that we think. And not to like the extent of brainwashing, because that's not really a thing, but that it can really coerce people into seeing the world a specific way and shaping worldviews based on shaping language. I really, really liked it. I very recently bought her new book, spoiler alert, that will be in the next haul I do, I suppose. And last of all, we have The Pursuit of Love and Love in a Cold Climate by Nancy Mitford, which was a delightfully lucky, spontaneous buy from the bookstore. I was just there one day, just thought it looked real pretty, thought I would read the back, and I was really intrigued, and I read a couple pages, and I was even more pleased with what I read. This is 2 novels, they're companion novels, and I have read the first one, and then I've put it down, and I'm going to come back to it again maybe next month. But it takes place in the 1930s. I think the first one it happens before and then during World War One. Starting off, the protagonist with she lives with her cousins, and they are very wealthy. They're landed gentry. And then growing up into sort of like their coming out phases and their marriage. But we start to follow her cousin, who starts making very love-motivated choices and not smart in her position as a socialite. So I'm really interested to see where the next one goes, the next book. But what I loved the most about this book was definitely the language. She's really, really a very fun writer. While I was reading this, I was getting Jane Austen vibes, even though, centuries apart and like very, very different. I've never read, of any book I've ever read that I could have said the writing style reminded me of Jane Austen, would be this book. Although, of course, it is sort of a different setting. And it is the author was also, from what I did for research, a little bit of research, she was in a position of nobility, and she is being internally like critiquing social like social status, like she is making social critiques. That's what I'm trying to say. Which also Jane Austen did, of course she did a lot of that. So it sort of gives me, if Jane Austen wrote and the themes were more like Downton Abbey, although not quite so pretentious and self-involved, a lot more like poking fun of ourselves. Anyway, it's fun. It was fun, and I'm ready and excited to read the next one. That's all of them. Our lighting at this moment is horrendous, and so we will wrap things up, and I will say that's just about it. These are all of the books, the many, many books that I read, that I bought, a couple that I read in the last 9 months, and many more to get to. So if you saw any on here that you maybe would really like me to read and have thoughts on soon, drop a comment down below. Or if you've read these and like them, love to hear from it. As for now, I have no choice. I gotta go. The lighting is real bad. Yeah, well, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in another video. Bye.